warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, we are still meet on this opportunity to continue our discussion in the Introduction to Second Language Acquisition class. In this very special occasion, we would like to present the result of our discussion. But before that, I want to introduce the members of this group. Start from me, Wahidah Nur Karimatun Hidayah, with student number 220142001, and my partner, Rina Novita Dewi, with student number 220142015. We are from Group 9, Introduction to Second Language Acquisition 503. Today, we are going to discuss about interlanguage in context. In this chapter, it is divided into several parts, including first, introduction, second, variation, and the last, systematic variation, which is divided into linguistic context, social context relating to the native language, and social context relating to interlocutor, text type, and conversational topic. So, let's move on to the materials. This chapter focuses on external social and contextual variables as they affect the learning and production of a second language. The basic premise of sociolinguistic-based second language acquisition research is that second language data do not represent a static phenomenon, even at a single point in time. The resultant effect is that learners, in some instances, produce different forms dependent on external variables. We begin the discussion of such variables with a consideration of interlanguage variation. Interlanguages seems to exhibit more variability than do native language. For example, a learner might alternate between forms to express the same language function. So, what is the source of this variability? In Chapter 8, we discussed one source of variability with regard to the variable use of the two forms of negation, no and don't. No and don't. Initially, the variation in the use of these two forms was non-systematic. That is, the forms were used interchangeably with no apparent difference in meaning. With increased proficiency, the non-systematic use of these forms became a source for learners' hypotheses about their use. For example, comes from R. Ellis, 1984, in his description of an 11-year-old boy, a native speaker of Portuguese learning English. He produced the following two utterances: "No look my card" and "Don't look my card." "No look my card" and "Don't look my card." Variationist perspective on second language acquisition, for example, Adamson 1988, Bailey and Preston 1996, Preston 1989, and Terran 1988, focus on the correlation of social facts and linguistic forms, the influence of linguistics forms on one another, and the place of variation within the study of language change. Preston, 2000 and 2002, makes the important connection between variationist approaches to second language acquisition and their psycholinguistics underpinnings. In particular, he outlines three areas of interest and argues for a psycholinguistics account for each one. In the first instance, there is a linking between sociocultural information and linguistic forms. And secondly, there's a area to present model, and that is the variation due to linguistic as opposed to social factors. In fact, Preston points out that linguistic variation is generally stronger than choices made on the basis of sociocultural factors. A third area of variationist research concerns language change, which, in some sense, is what learning another language is about, albeit in second language learning. It happens much more rapidly than in language change in the more traditional sense. Now we are move on to systematic variation. There is another type of variation that might occur from the early stage systematic variation. Systematic variation is evidence when two or more sounds or grammatical forms vary contextually. We deal first with linguistically based variation. The first, linguistic context. In a study investigating phonological variation by native speakers of Japanese learning English, Dickerson 1975 found that the target sound R was more frequently used before a low vowel A than before a mid vowel I, E, or O, and more frequently before a mid vowel than before a high vowel I or U. So, in morphology, Yang 1991 investigated the use of plural markings by second language learners. In a study of Chinese native speaker learning English, Yang collected interview data from 12 subjects on two separate occasions using two different interviewers. Yang established a number of hypotheses, only some of which are relevant to a discussion of the linguistic context in which plural nouns occur. He found that there was variation conditioned by the phonological environment by both the preceding and following segment. Interestingly, this result held only for low proficiency learners. For higher proficiency learners, the most important factor is in determining whether or not plural nouns are marked with s. Is the presence or absence of plural markings elsewhere in the noun phrase. Thus, systematic variation is found in phonology, morphology, and syntax. It is evidence of learner need to impose regularity on their own language system. So guys, after this, the others linguistically based variation until the end will be explained by my partner. Rina, time is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Novita Dewi, and in this session, I would like to continue in presenting the systematic variations. So the second one, it is about social context relating to the native language. One of the earliest studies to consider the role of social factors in second language acquisition was that of Smith 1977, in which he investigated the pronunciation of the sounds th as in thing and the as in this by two groups of Karen Arabic speakers. One group was university students and another group was working classmen. The main difference in Smith's two groups of native speakers occurred in the use of the variant in Arabic. All of the university students produced the variant some of the time, whereas the majority of the working class group never pronounced words using the variant. Thus, the variant appears to be a prestige variant, associated with the educated class. Here, the result is that the more educated group used a higher percentage of this in English than the less educated group, although for both groups there was variation along the formality or informality scale. From this, we can conclude that social factors in the culture influence the forms learners use in a second language. In addition, variation in second language use may also have a basis in the social norms of the native language. And then, now, the third systematic variation is about social context relating to interlocutors, test type, and conversational topic. But first of all, let's talk about the social context relating to interlocutors. We often adjust our speech style according to the situation and the speaker with whom we are talking. It is well known that the way we speak in a family situation is different from the way we speak in a formal job interview. One way of accounting for speech effects attributed to interlocutor differences is through speech accommodation theory, which begins from the observation that speech patterns tend to converge or diverge in social interaction. Thacker, Giles, and also Cheshire define convergence is a linguistic strategy whereby individuals adapt to each other's speech by means of a wide range of linguistic features, including speech rates, pause, and utterance length, pronunciation, etc. Whereas divergence refers to the manner by which speakers accentuate vocal differences between themselves and others. In this context, there is a question raised. Why should speakers accommodate their speech to that of others? There are actually a number of reasons, all social in origin. Speaking like others is intended to have the benefit of gaining the approval of others. It also identifies one as a member of the same social group, class, or ethnic background. The next is about the social context relating to the task type. One of the most frequently investigated topics within the sociolinguistic or second language acquisition literature concerns the differential results obtained as a function of data elicitation tasks. The basis of this work is that of Labov, who noted that different forms are likely to occur depending on the speech situation. According to Taron, the learner's grammatical system exhibits more systematicity or consistency in the vernacular style and less so in what she calls the subordinate style. The vernacular system is that system in which the least attention is paid to the form of one's speech, and the subordinate style is that system in which the most attention is paid to speech form. Here, there are some studies that give different results relating to the task type. The first study was conducted by Dickerson in 1977. In his study, he found that there are differences in accuracy as a function of the type of task, free speech, dialogue reading, and also word-list reading that the learner is engaged in. He stated that the vernacular is the most internally consistent, but is least accurate. On the other hand, the subordinate style is the most accurate, but possibly the least systematic system. Then, in the second study, Gaz, 1980, in an investigation of the acquisition of relative clauses, compared two task types. She used a grammaticality judgment task and a sentence combining task. In comparing the results of the two tasks, Gaz found different results, leading her to emphasize that different data elicitation techniques may yield different conclusions. The point is that the concept of attention to speech may be less important than understanding the processes involved in doing various tasks. And the last study was from Taron, who recognized the limitations of a linear, monolithic perspective on variation. In this study, there were three tasks. The first one is grammatically judgment, the second one is oral interview about the learner's major field of interest, and the third one is oral narration. Tarrant's analysis and explanation of these findings incorporated the notion of discourse function. That is, one cannot simply say that the type of text will dictate what forms will be used. One also needs to look at the function of those forms within a discourse context. Finally, we come to the last one, that is the social context relating to the topic. To make us clearly understand about this, there are two studies that I'm going to explain. First, in Jungler's study, she paired a native speaker and a non-native speaker who were majoring in the same field. Statistics, dairy science, or electrical engineering. Each pair had two conversations, one on a neutral topic about which each was presumed to have equal knowledge, like food, and the other on a topic relating to their major. In some pairs, the native speaker were further along in his or her studies, and in others, it was the non-native speaker who had more advanced topic knowledge. The results suggest that conversational dominance is not conditioned by linguistic knowledge alone, because native speakers did not uniformly dominate their conversations. Rather, dominance was better understood in terms of content knowledge. And second, similar study also conducted by Woken and Swales. Their results are similar to those of Jungler, showing that dominance and control in a conversation must be considered complex phenomena. The common view is that native speakers control the conversation by virtue of the fact that they have more linguistic resources available to them. However, the effect of topic knowledge as well as other social variables such as status and familiarity must be taken into account. Thus, there is a complex interaction of many factors that shape the nature of conversational and linguistic behaviors involving non-native speakers. Alright everyone, that's all the material that we can present about interlanguage in context. If you have any questions related to this topic, you may drop your questions on WhatsApp group. Thank you.